Welcome, Parshas Shemos. It should be before Shlomo Mordechai ben Tzara and Zechus for my family and all of Klal Yisrael. There was once a father who had many sons and daughters. He called all of his children to gather so he can teach them an important life lesson. So they traveled from all over the country, from all different parts of the world, and assembled before their father. The father handed each of them a single string and asked them to tear it. So each child easily tore the string. Then the father took a bundle of strings, tied them together tightly, and asked his children to tear the bundle all at once. Despite their best efforts, they were unable to tear the bundle apart. The father said to them, "Remember what you witnessed today. When a single string is joined with many others, they become one strong, unified unit that cannot be torn apart. My children, if you want to succeed in life, avoid controversy, avoid quarrels, avoid angry words, avoid unnecessary conflicts between each other. Your unity is your strength. Together, you'll be able to overcome life's hardships." So Rabbi Yisrael Friedman of Ruzin used this story to explain a pasuk in this week's Parsha. The pasuk says about Bnei Yisrael, Rav va'atzum mimenu. They're more and mightier than we. The phrasing here is unusual. Why is it in Lashon Yachid? Why is it in the singular form? Should it not be in Lashon Rabim and say Rabim va'atzumim mimenu? So Rabbi Yisrael Friedman taught that when Bnei Yisrael are united in their minds and actions, the nations of the world perceive us as a single, strong, and mighty entity. A Rav va'atzum mimenu. A people that are great and indomitable. It is this unity, the achdus of Klal Yisrael, that leads us to greatness and makes us unyielding in the face of challenges. Why in this week's Parsha does the Torah recount Yaakov's children? Rashi explains it's to show Hashem's love for them. Yaakov's children were the Shiftei Ka, was the beginning of Bnei Yisrael. And Bnei Yisrael is compared to the stars, which the stars Hashem counts and calls by name. So Rav Yidel Epstein, the Mashgiach of Yeshiva Torah Or, brought in the Sefer Shalal Rav, asks, why are Bnei Yisrael compared to the stars? What is the connection between Hashem's special love for the stars and his love for Klal Yisrael? So Rav Epstein brings an explanation that he heard from Rav Lev Baksh, the Rosh Yeshiva of Detroit. He explains that stars are without number, and some stars are so great they are larger than all of creation combined. Despite the star's vastness, Hashem counts each star, names each star, and considers each one uniquely important. But what's the deeper message behind the stars? What is it teaching us? So in the story of creation, the sun and the moon were created. But the moon complained, arguing there cannot be two kings sharing one crown. As a result, the moon was diminished and became subservient to the sun. To appease the moon, the stars were created, which Rashi describes as Harbe Tzava, a great army. Their very purpose was to serve and support the moon, to bring balance and harmony. This is why the stars are so beloved to Hashem. They exist to help and serve others. Similarly, Hashem compares Klal Yisrael to the stars because we too are created to help and support one another, to carry the burden of our fellow Jews in times of need. This is the deep love Hashem has for Klal Yisrael, mirroring his affection for the stars. Just as the stars came to bring harmony and light to the heaven, Klal Yisrael brings unity and kindness to the world. This week's Parsha tells us, Vayakam melech chadash, a new king arose. The famous Gemara in Sota, there's a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel, where one says that a new king, this was literally a new king, and the other opinion says that no, this was the same Pharaoh in the time of Yosef, but he issued new decrees. Let's unpack these two opinions. On the one hand, according to the opinion that literally a new king arose, the original Pharaoh in the times of Yosef remembered Yosef even after he passed away. And he recognized that it was because of Yosef that Mitzrayim had become wealthy during the years of famine, and continued that gratitude even after Yosef's death. However, when the new king arose, he did not know of Yosef. There's two explanations of this new king. Rabbeinu Bachya explains that this Pharaoh was actually the son of the previous Pharaoh who knew Yosef. And this particular son of Pharaoh was born while Yosef was imprisoned. But since he was merely a child during Yosef's tenure, he didn't recognize Yosef's accomplishments and what Yosef had done for the Egyptians and for Egypt, for Mitzrayim. In contrast, the Ibn Ezra explains that this new king didn't come from the same lineage as the previous Pharaoh. It was a completely new royal lineage, an entirely different ruler. On the other hand, we have the other opinion where this was the same Pharaoh, but he issued new decrees. What changed? What happened? So Shmos Rabbah, the Medrash, provides an insight, and he explains that the Egyptians began to see that Bnei Yisrael was a growing threat and approached Pharaoh with a plan to take care of the issue. Pharaoh initially resisted. He totally said, how can we plot against them? Without Yosef, we wouldn't be alive today. How could we take action against the Jews that helped us? So when Pharaoh refused to listen, the Egyptians dethroned him, and he was no longer the ruler of Mitzrayim. But after 3 months, Pharaoh came back and he said, I'll agree to whatever you want. He agreed to the Egyptians, so they reinstated Pharaoh, and in order to maintain his Pharaoh, he abandoned Yosef's decree and issued new decrees. And that's what the pasuk means, Vayakam melech chadash, a new king arose, meaning the Pharaoh was reinstated, and the reinstatement was with a new order, a new set of actions and policies towards the Jewish people, which was needed in order for him to maintain his authority as Pharaoh. Rav Gershon HaKohen Katzman offers an insightful explanation of the progression of the Egyptians' oppression of Bnei Yisrael in the first parak of this week's Parsha. Initially, the Egyptians appointed tax collectors, targeting the Jews' wealth and focusing solely on their financial resources. However, as time went on, their oppression intensified, shifting to physical enslavement in order to increase their suffering. At first, the work given to Bnei Yisrael had a practical purpose. They were tasked with building storage and fortified cities for Egypt. However, despite the Egyptians' intentions to make them suffer, this work only led to their continued growth and prosperity of the Jewish people, as described in the pasuk, "Kain yirbeh v'chein yifrotz." The more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and spread out. This success provoked envy among the Egyptians, who were frustrated by Bnei Yisrael flourishing even in the face of hardship. In response, they escalated their cruelty, assigning them purposeless labor solely to embitter their lives. For example, they instructed them to take brick materials and fashion them into bricks, only then to take those bricks and dismantle them into the original material, to its original form. This work served no purpose. It was designed purely as an instrument of suffering. Additionally, not only was the work grueling, the Torah emphasizes that this labor was carried out basadeh, which did not refer to typical agricultural fieldwork. No. Rather, it was outdoor labor under extreme conditions, the scorching heat of the day and the muddy, rain-soaked fields when it rained. The Egyptians deliberately subjected Bnei Israel to these grueling and degrading conditions, seeking to break their spirits and drain their strength. This progression in the Egyptians' tactics highlights the gradual physical torment inflicted upon Bnei Israel. In this week's Parsha, we have a reference to Hashem, Aleph Asher Aleph Aleph Yud Hey Asher Aleph Yud Hey. So Rav Shechter, in his sefer on the Parsha, put together by Alan Weissman, discusses the concept of Shem Hashem and its implications in Halacha. We'll go through a few of the halachic concepts that are mentioned there. So the Gemara in Shavuos lists 7 divine names of Hashem that are considered sacred and may not be erased. Some versions of the Gemara include Aehka Asher Aehka, that's mentioned in this week's Parsha. And in fact, the Rambam in his list includes Aehka Asher Aehka. This also has ramifications regarding the prohibition of uttering Hashem's name in vain. Not only is the classical Yud Hey Vav Hey included, but even this name, the 7 names that are mentioned in the Gemara in Shavuos, which would include Aehka Asher Aehka. The Gemara, additionally, another halachic point, the Gemara in Kedushin derives from a pasuk in this week's Parsha, Zeh Shmi Li Olam, V'zeh Zichri L'Dor Dor. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance for all generations. And we learn from this pasuk that the Shem HaMefurash, the ineffable name of Hashem, may not be pronounced outside of the Beis HaMikdash. As a result, Yod Hey Vav Hey, which comes up all the time in our tefillah and elsewhere, is not pronounced as it is written, but rather we pronounce it as Ado Noi. So the Magi Mesharim suggests that maybe Aehka Asher Aehka which carries a similar theme to Yud Hey Vav Hey, should be treated with the same stringency, and we should not be allowed to pronounce it outside of the Beis HaMikdash. It should be included in this pasuk of Zeh Shmi Li Olam, Zeh Zichri L'Dor Dor. The Meshech Chochmah draws a distinction. He explains that Yud Hey Vav Hey represents an aspect of Hashem that is beyond human comprehension, which is why it may only be pronounced in the sanctity of the Beis HaMikdash. It cannot, generally speaking, be pronounced. In contrast, Aehka Asher Aehka, Aleph Yud Hey Asher Aleph Yud Hey, reflects an idea that perfected humans can grasp and understand. Therefore, it does not reach the same level of stringency as Yud Hey Vav Hey, and we can indeed pronounce it, and thus you'll find the person learning this week's Parsha will pronounce it as it is written in the Torah. Though Aehka Asher Aehka does still have Kedusha, does have sacredness of Hashem's name, and may not be erased, and may not be mentioned in vain. Have a good Shabbos.